It is GMOG Sports TV back with another video. All right, so we got the fight coming up. As y'all know, Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Charlo, Lions only. You already know what it is, man. I am definitely looking forward to this fight, and to be honest, this fight should be bigger. To me, this fight doesn't have a lot of buzz, right? But it should be bigger than what it is. This is marketed as undisputed versus undisputed, and I think this fight should have a lot more eyes on it than what I think it should be. But nevertheless, man, I just want to do a quick video and give you guys my thoughts on how this fight will play out. Give you guys a breakdown of what I think will happen and some keys to victories for both fighters, and also some things I want to point out for the fight as well, right? So first off, let's just start off with the obvious, right? We got Charlo, right? Undisputed champion at 154. He's moving up 2 weight classes to fight Saul Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds, right? Here's the thing, and these are some very important things and factors people got to understand. Both fighters, right? Charlo is coming off a hand injury. Okay, he's coming off a hand injury, and he has been inactive for 16 months, a little over 16 months, right? His last fight was with Canelo. And we all know that was a rematch that he did because the first fight was majority draw. I believe it was like a split, something like that, but it was definitely a draw, which deserved a rematch with Canelo. And he stopped him during the second fight. Okay, so after that fight, that's when he suffered his hand injury. And ever since then, he has been sidelined. And if you look at his interview he just recently did, he said he had to take some time off for the hand injury, right? So I want to say this, right? In contrast to Canelo Alvarez, who suffered a similar hand injury, his hand injury actually happened at the last trilogy fight with Triple G. That's when he suffered his hand injury. And the difference is he had a hand injury and still continued to fight. He fought Dimitri Bivol, moved up to 175, right? Lost that fight. Then he continued to fight after that. He fought John Ryder in his hometown of Mexico. Now, Canelo, after the injury, continued to take fights and be active. During those performances with Bivol and Ryder, majority of people are saying that Canelo is slipping and has fell off, and it's not the same Canelo, right? Now, here's the thing. What people don't understand about this is that Canelo didn't even have to take those fights. He didn't have to fight Bivol. That was no mandatory. He wanted to do that, right? He wanted to do that. Now, Ryder was actually a mandatory, but he could have said, I'm injured. I'm injured. I don't want to fight. He could have easily said that the same thing that Jamel is doing. Jamel has been injured and decided not to take any fights. Canelo was injured and decided to take fights. You see the difference here? So with the durability, everybody knows how durable and how great of a chin Canelo has. He is still willing to move up in weight, go to 175, fight a Bivol, right? Then go fight John Ryder, another doable fighter, where he dropped him but won the fight handedly, right? When you have guys who fought John Ryder that couldn't knock him down at all. That's how durable Ryder is. That lets you know, right, when it comes to the durability and the power of Canelo, you got to understand there's levels to this. And I say that to say this, because again, you have Jermell moving up 2 weight classes, hasn't fought in over 16 months. So we have a lot of questions. We don't know how he's going to perform at 168 pounds. We don't know how he's going to perform after a hand injury, right? We're assuming Canelo says he's 100% healed. We're assuming that Charlo is 100% healed, right? Both fighters are coming off hand injuries and they are 100% healed. So there should be no excuses regarding injuries with this fight. Okay? So, again, there's a lot more questions on Jermell's side from me. I want to know how he's going to fight at 168. I want to know how he's going to fight after a hand injury. Right? I want to know. I don't know how, because those are huge question marks. I've seen what Canelo can do with a hand injury. Right? He lost to a Bivol. Right? He lost to a Bivol. Clearly lost. Now, what I take out of that fight is that Bivol was schooling Canelo. Canelo was never hurt. Canelo was never dropped in that fight, but he was schooled, right? Because Bivol had tremendous range control, being able to, right, establish his dominance with his range, with his jab, right, utilizing his lateral movement and putting him in a box, putting Canelo in a box where, hey, I can hit you, but you can't hit me. That was the style that Bivol had against Canelo, right? And so being able to play in those hands, Canelo lost that fight. Barring injury or not, he lost the fight. But again, if we're going to talk about caveats for this fight, you have to bring up the fact that both fighters are coming off injuries. Both fighters are coming off hand injuries, right? So again, there's more questions on Jermell's side about how he will perform after a hand injury. We don't know. We've seen, because he's never fought during an injury. Canelo has fought during an injury. He was injured after the Triple G fight. Right? He was injured after the Triple G fight. So those are 2 factors that we got to come into play. Now, the other thing I want to mention with this fight that's coming up this Saturday, okay, is the fact that we have Canelo, right, who we've seen him fight recently. We've seen him fight Ryder. We've seen him fight Bivol. Right? We got to know which Canelo is going to show up. That's the other thing. Which Canelo is going to show up? Is it going to be the Danny Jacobs Canelo? Is it going to be the Canelo that fought Caleb Plant? Is it going to be the Canelo that fought John Ryder? Is it going to be the Canelo that fought Irizladi Lara? There's so many different versions of Canelo that pick your poison. We don't know which version of Canelo is going to show up. Is this going to be a new and improved version of Canelo that we have not seen before? We don't know that. We don't know that, right? But here's the thing about that. I would say this: no matter what version of Canelo that you pick, the Canelo that we've seen in the past still has durability, can take shots, pause, right? Great chin, and still has power in both hands. Okay? So when Jermell tries to do those 50-50 exchanges, right? Fighting off the back foot, because Canelo's going to come through with pressure. Now, if he comes through with pressure, we don't know if he's going to come through with pressure with lateral movement, head movement, or walk him down with the high guard. That constant pressure is going to run rampant with Jermell. How is he going to be able to do that for 12 rounds? Is he going to get the respect from Canelo with his power? Because Jermell likes to fight at he likes to fight long distance to mid-range, but he's not an inside fighter. So when Canelo continues to walk him down, continues to pressure him, find his range, how long would he not allow that to happen? Can he stop that from happening for 12 rounds? Because with Castaño did that, and he was successful, especially in the first fight. Canelo is a whole different beast. Whole different beast. You know, extremely durable, power in both hands, and he's hitting you with shots that you've never felt before, right? Powerful puncher that can stop pretty much heavyweights, because, you know, he stopped, even though Kovalev was a shell of his former self. Canelo was, you know, walks around at 200 pounds, or rehydrates, I should say, at 200 pounds, and he stopped him, right? So you gotta factor that in, guys. You gotta factor that in. So I don't know how Jermell is going to respond to the constant pressure, and when he fights off the back foot, right, and he's able to withstand those left hooks, the shots to the arms, the shots to the body, right? Is he, because, you know, somebody like Bivol, who is a range master, is able to anticipate those punches, even those arm shots. He knew those were coming. Canelo's going to try to beat you to the body. He's going to try to hit your arms, your shoulders, everything, for 12 rounds. And those shots hurt. Everybody that Canelo fights, when they say they hit him in his arm, trust and believe their arms are hurting during the fight, and even after the fight, they can't lift their arms. So the body shots are going to be massive. Pause against Jermell. Now, with Canelo, you know, Jermell has a pretty good jab. I'd like to see more variations of his jab, right? We've seen Jermell stop people with the jab, a jab to the body, right? If Jermell has different variations of his jab, swivel jab, you know, pawing jabs, just different speeds, if he could change up the levels of his jab, well, he could definitely give Canelo problems. We've seen it with Triple G. Triple G has probably the best consistent jab of his era, you know, pound for pound. And Canelo had problems with that. So I want to see how Canelo responds to Jermell's jab, right? But the key to this fight is range. Who is going to control range? The person that controls the range is the person that's going to control the fight and win the fight and possibly stop that person, right? So my prediction is this. For me, there's a lot more question marks for Jermell than I have for Canelo. Again, I don't know how he's going to fight at 168. I don't know how he's going to fight after a hand injury. I don't know how he's going to respond to somebody at 168 pounds. It's pressure, the punches being thrown. We don't know how he's going to respond to that. We don't know, right? At least we do know with Canelo's side. Canelo has been established at that weight for 168 for quite some time, and he has been more active. So I think, you know, activity plays a major role in this fight. Major role in this fight. And so for me, I think the only way that Jermell can win is by stoppage. And that is a highly unlikely factor for Canelo. We've seen Canelo face bigger guys that are much more heavy-handed than Jermell. I can arguably say that Danny Jacobs hits harder than Jermell. I can honestly say that. We've seen Canelo take Danny Jacobs flush, Triple G flush, Kovalev flush, right? And stand there and not even be stumbled or nothing and just continue to fight. So him stopping Canelo is highly unlikely, but anything, as you know, All it takes is one punch, so anything in boxing can happen. Anything in boxing can happen. But yeah, like I said, I don't see Jermell stopping Canelo, and he cannot win on points because styles make fights, and these judges love to score for Canelo. They love to score. Remember, he got washed by Mayweather, and one of the judges scored the fight a draw. Remember that, guys? They scored the fight a draw. I think it was like 115 or 114, something like that. They scored the fight a draw. So even on the cards, if Jermell, right, inks a victory if you guys see by eyesight, inks a victory, the judges are going to score the Canelo side. So you cannot beat Canelo on points. You got to stop him. So my opinion on this is that I think Canelo will win the fight, and I think he will win on points. First, I say he's going to stop stop Jermell, but I think he's going to win on points, and I think actually Jermell will get dropped a couple times in this fight. He'll get dropped with body shots a couple times, and I think what happens is the only way that Jermell is going to get knocked out is if his corner weighs in the towel. And Derrick James, based off what happened with Errol Spence, he's not a guy that's going to throw in the towel because Spence took a beating, and the referee had to stop the fight. So my point is that I see a couple knockdowns on Canelo's side to Jermell, right? But I see Canelo winning the fight, unanimous decision. Something like a 115, 112, 116, something like that. So those are my thoughts on that, family. Leave your comments down below. Let me know who you guys think will win this fight between Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo. Until next time, signing out. Peace.